So Al, this is exciting because we're in Audrieu.
Say that again?
Audrieu.
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 Anyway, we're there. And
I want a room.
okay, so we moved inland.
Yes.
We're coming inland, and we're in Sherwood Rangers territory.
Okay.
Yeah? Here's Gold Beach here, and here's Juno. What's happening? The Canadians are going like this. 50th Division is going down like this. And what's happening is the Sherwood Rangers have come off Gold Beach and they've gone like this into Bayeux, and they've taken it first thing on D+1.
Yep.
And then late on D+1, at the end of the 7th of June, they're told, get ready to go as a battle group. The whole of 8th Armoured Brigade, so 3 tank regiments, plus the 12th King's Royal Rifle Corps, plus the SS Yeomanry and their sextons, you know, track 25-pounders. Go and get ready to take some high ground, because what is happening is the 12th SS are arriving. So they're coming from here and they're getting into here, and they've had a fight with, there's OT.
Yep.
So they've had a big fight with the Canadians there.
OT, yeah.
Yep, on the 7th of June. But they're also pushing down this route here.
Right.
So what you've got is you've got a situation where the 12th SS are going like this. And so actually the front line then becomes Audrieu here.
Yeah.
And it's kind of much more kind of like this. Rather than, there's 103. Can you see 103 there?
Yeah.
Okay, so the front line is here.
Jim, am I right in thinking that the SS arriving like this are offering lots of flanks to all sorts of people? They're not boxing that clever, are they?
But don't forget you've got 21st Panzer here as well, coming down here.
But you know what I mean?
Here. Yes, but this is a kind of sort of, it's an unsettled, uncertain, uncertain kind of scrap. And what 8th Armoured Brigade have been told to do is get up to point 103, because this is important high ground. Here's Tilly-sur-Seulles, and here is the Seulles Valley, which kind of wiggles like this.
Yeah.
So get this high ground here, and you've dominated this bit here before the enemy can get on top of it.
Right.
Because what we don't want to do is the enemy to come up and push us off it.
Yeah.
So get it and hold it.
Yeah.
So they get up there, they get sent up here on the 8th of June while this fighting is going on. And this is really, really bitter fighting. This road here is effectively the front line.
Right.
And what happens is, you know, you're dealing with the 12th SS here. And that fighting on those first few days really sets the bar for the entire campaign.
Sets the tone, doesn't it?
Because because they're incredibly brutal. They murder 37 on the 7th.
Yeah.
You know, up at the Abbaye d'Ardenne, which is just sort of near Carpiquet, just on the kind of south-west of Caen. And then in these woods, just over here, literally just over here, this is the woods behind the Chateau D'Audrieu.
Audrieu.
Audrieu. Audrieu.
Audrieu.
Audrieu.
It's not difficult.
Oh, I can't do it.
I know.
Okay, in these woods here, they execute a whole load more.
Yeah.
And this memorial is to those who get shot while they're prisoner of war. They literally just shoot them in the woods.
Yeah, they murder them, line them up and shoot them, don't they?
And the bottom line is the 12th SS do get pushed back from here, and so they're all found.
Yeah.
So the Canadians know exactly what's happened because they've all got bullets in the back of their heads and they're all in clumps, so they know they've just been murdered.
Well, and from then on the Canadians tend not to take prisoners if they're fighting the SS, right?
Right, so it sets a terrible precedent.
Yeah.
And this is them, plus of course,
a
couple of the DLI, and as we know, the DLI are always absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
It's quite a thing.
It is. It's awful.
But the first time I came here was back in 2004 with David Christopherson, who is the son of Stanley Christopherson, great friend of mine.
Yeah.
And this is a facsimile of Stanley's map that he was issued. Very real one. And we were staying just up the road at the Chateau D'Audrieu. Audrieu. I haven't done this right now. Hold on.
10 out of 10 for map folding until that very moment.
No, I got recovered, I think. That was probably 6, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, we were staying here at
the Chateau D'Audrieu.
Audrieu, and we were looking at the map, and he was talking about his dad and how his dad had said that point 103 was a really significant point. And we got out the map, and I went, well, it's just there. It's just there. Let's walk up the road. So we walked up the road and walked up to it. It was a magic moment because you could walk down this track and you could really half close your eyes and imagine it full of Shermans and, you know, armoured recovery vehicles and tracks and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But the thing I always wanted to know was, how on earth did they get here? How do they get up to point 103,
Yeah.
which they do on the 8th?
Yeah.
How do they get up there if this is the front line? And it's only when you get up there you can understand how. And
Right. 8th Armoured Brigade, though, the idea of them is they're an independent armoured brigade. So,
Yes.
so they're fire brigade, aren't they? Is
Yeah,
the idea.
they are armoured fire support for the infantry division to which they're attached at any one time.
Yeah.
And there's a key distinction. So, on the morning of D-Day, they were under direct command of 231st Malta Brigade.
Yeah.
But thereafter, they are supporting.
Yeah.
And supporting and under direct command are two very, very different things.
How so?
Well, because they're not under direct command of them, which means they have a certain amount of
Yes.
independent judgment.
Yeah.
The problem they always have is a division is commanded by a major general, a brigade is commanded by a brigadier.
So if you're
So you're always outranked every time. And what tends to happen is that one of the 3 armoured regiments in the armoured brigade gets attached to one of the 3 infantry brigades in the infantry division. So then you've got a brigadier operating with a lieutenant colonel.
Yeah.
And then what you then find is that whatever armoured regiment has been attached to whichever brigade, you then find that each of the 3 Sabre squadrons, so A, B and C, get attached to a battalion. So then you've got a lieutenant colonel commanding the battalion with a major for commanding a squadron.
Right.
So they're always outranked. So this is a problem. And the way to sort of even that playing field a little bit is to have them supporting rather than under direct command.
Right, okay. And also because you've got quite a churn of officers at
Yes.
this point. You can be well acquainted with the battalion 1 minute and it's commanding officer 1 minute, and then he's gone and he's replaced and you're dealing with someone new all over again.
Yeah.
So there's this permanent command churn, isn't there? Because
Yeah.
it's dangerous being a major or a lieutenant colonel, isn't it? Let's be honest now, it's really, really dangerous.
Yes, it is.
And so you might know Binky from the
From Sandhurst.
from Sandhurst or from training exercises in England, but you get here, he's gone.
You've suddenly got to work with someone else.
Yeah.
Or in the case of the Sherwood Rangers, they're starting off by working with 231 Brigade, the
Yeah.
Malta Brigade, generally with 50th Division.
Yeah.
So they're working with 50th Division until the 13th of June. Then they come out of the line for a couple of days, they're put back in the line, and suddenly they're with the 49th Polar Bears Division,
Yeah.
who are brand new to combat.
Yeah.
They've been doing sort of occupation duties on Iceland,
Yeah.
hence the Polar Bear, and that's it.
Yeah.
And this is their first taste of action, and you're coming up against people like the 4th, they're operating with 8th Armoured Brigade, who are incredibly experienced, less so the 24th Lancers, but the Sherwood Rangers and the 4th, 7th Dragoon Guards, who are the other regiment, they're really, really experienced. They've been all through Alamein, all through North Africa, all through Tunisia. They know what they're about. And suddenly they're having to work with this rookie infantry division, and it causes problems.
Yeah.
And they've got to iron that out on the hoof. And that's the difficulty.
Yeah. And so D+3, these things are not ironed out.
No.
These things are ongoing.
These are ongoing, but on D+2, when a squadron of the Sherwood Rangers hustles its way up to point 103, they are the first people up there, and 8th Armoured Brigade is operating solely as 8th Armoured Brigade. It's operating as its own battle group. Right. So who says the British can't organise themselves into battle groups when they want to?
Well, they've kind of got one ready organised anyway.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. There it is.
Yeah.
Should we have a look?
Yeah, definitely. But, it's not a great distance at all.
No.
It really isn't. Chateau just up here on the left is nice.
Chateau D'Audrieu. Anyway, right. And there's a village on the top of here, right?
Yes, there's Haute-Audieu, and then there's also Christo.
Okay.
And again, when it's point 103, so it's not massively high above sea level.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a major. But yet again,
enough.
it's high ground. It's high enough. That's the point. Yeah. This is it. This is the route I walked down with David all those years, 20 years ago.
I mean, aside for the wind turbine, not a lot's changed, right?
Not a lot. No, not a lot. There was an orchard just here.
Right.
It's atmospheric. It just is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this makes its point. You've got a good view from here. It might only be 103 metres, but
Yeah, so the Seulles Valley is coming down this way,
you can
but it's
see
also
that.
going down that way.
Yeah.
So let me get out my iPad.
Yeah.
Right, so there is the Chateau D'Audrieu.
Yeah.
And there's the village where we've just been, just
Yep.
here, and we were looking back at the woods there.
Yeah.
Okay. This is this wood here. So we are on this corner.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Okay. And there we are looking down there.
Yeah. So we came off the road
Right.
along that track. Right.
The railway line.
Yeah.
Look at all these marks. Can you see all these?
Tank tracks.
Tank tracks, vehicle tracks. This is an area that we've never have seen a vehicle before, pretty much. Suddenly look at all this, and that's how they're getting there. Now, you suddenly realise this is dead ground,
Yeah.
because they can't see it in D'Audrieu.
D'Audrieu. Yes.
D'Audrieu.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
this is how they get here.
So they're coming round up through the dead
So
ground
the
and up to
fighting,
hill.
so yeah, we can get out now. But D'Audrieu is over there.
Yeah.
You can't see it.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you want to hustle up here and grab this,
Yeah.
while the Germans are busy fighting in the village, you go that way, which is, and you can see they have, because
Yeah.
here's the photograph
Yeah,
showing
yeah.
you exactly what they're doing. You can see this is taken on the 24th of June.
You see where they've then
So this is
gone
the
on to.
day before Martlet. This is
Right,
taken.
okay.
Look at all this. You see?
Yeah.
It's like shell holes everywhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely everywhere. Look at that. Boom, 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 boom. All this here. So you can see this is a scene of really, really heavy fighting. And this is where the SS are coming. So they're coming into this way. So fighting is here,
Yep.
and they're pushing them back, and they're going back that way. And what they've now got to do is, having got them out of D'Audrieu, they've then got to get them up here and push them right back off that ridge.
Yep.
And that's what they're doing. That's what this battle is out from basically from here until Martlet on the 25th of June.
Yeah.
So it's basically, best part of 2 weeks,
God.
more than 2 weeks, which they're fighting just in this bit here. So here we are on point 103. 102 is over here. This is Cristo. So they're this ridge line here. They're trying to go that way, and the Germans are trying to go this way. But it's just fascinating to see.
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
suddenly think, this all makes perfect sense. So they get up here on the 8th.
Yeah.
And that afternoon, Stanley Christopherson, who at the time is commander of A Squadron of 19 Sherman tanks, sends off John Bethel Fox down into Saint-Pierre to see, are there any enemy? What's going on?
Go take a squint, John.
Yeah.
No
Go have a
problem.
gander.
Yeah, a squint, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
your
Saint-Pierre
chance.
is just down off this brow, maybe half a mile down at the bottom there.
And
Then
is
there's the
that
River Seulles.
in Stuart's? Is he Recce?
No,
So
he's in a Sherman.
So proper Sherman.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
But he goes down on foot in this particular. I mean, he's
Oh,
a
right.
troop commander, but he goes down on foot. Just,
Have a mooch.
have a little mooch, wander down. Goes down. Saint-Pierre is really, really quiet.
Right.
Not a lot going on.
Okay.
But he sees a Frenchman, and Frenchman says, "Yeah, no, Germans are here." And this is the Panzer Lehr.
Oh gosh.
Yes, this is Fritz Bayerlein.
Right.
And of the, 12th SS and the Panzer Lehr are probably the two best
They're
there are.
as good as it gets for the
As
Germans.
good as it gets for the Germans, exactly
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
They are very much bristling with weaponry.
Yeah.
They're full of people who are kind of motivated. In the case of the Panzer Lehr, they're full of very well-trained people,
Yeah.
experienced people. So this is really good. So they're on the other side of the ridge. They're arriving, having had a very, very fraught time getting up the fighter bomber racetrack.
Yeah, that's right. And railway lines being blown and roads being blown.
All
and
the rest of it.
Resistance and air
Allied air power.
curation of the battle space.
Yes, they've come from Le Mans, the Le Mans area.
Right.
So it's about 80 miles away, 60, 80 miles away. They're not in a particularly good mood when they get here. And Joffel Bethel Fox sees the German patrol. They both see each other. They fire a couple of rounds of their pistols. Their good old-fashioned know where you stand service revolver.
Yeah.
And then both sides run away from each other. But basically what that's telling them is
Yeah.
Panzer Lehr on the opposite ridge, Tilly-sur-Seulles, the River Seulles on the southern side of the River Seulles, Saint-Pierre on the northern side of the River Seulles. That is now your kind of hinterland.
Okay.
That's kind of the sort of middle of it. That's where the fighting's going to happen.
So that's another front line.
And the orders of the Panzer divisions are kick the Allies back into the sea.
Yes, they're as straightforward as that, aren't they?
They're as straightforward as that.
Hurl the Allies back into the sea.
Yes. Hurl them back into the sea, exactly.
Yeah. However,
the next day, A Squadron is still up here.
Yep.
And the rest of the Sherwood Rangers have arrived. And they're up in these fields here, and they're just firing down into Saint-Pierre, and they're having little clashes. And on the afternoon, John Bothwell Fox again goes into Saint-Pierre to see what's what with his best mate Keith Douglas.
On foot again?
No, they're both with their crews in their Shermans this time.
Okay.
And Keith Douglas is John Bothwell Fox's best friend.
Yeah.
He's also the second in command of A Squadron under Stanley Christopherson.
Right.
War poet.
Yep.
Artist. Author of Alamein to Zenzen, that brilliant memoir.
Amazing book. Yeah.
Amazing book, which Stanley's written the foreword for. And they go down and they abandon their Shermans and get out. And John and Keith Douglas get out on foot again.
Yeah.
And have a little kind of shufti, a little look-see.
Yeah.
And then they get shot at. And they dive down into the riverbank of the River Seulles.
Yep.
And carry along with the banks giving them cover. And then manage to come back to the orchard where they've left their Shermans and scuttle back up the hill.
Right.
And by that point, this whole area is being stomped in a very, very bad way by mortars.
Yeah.
And one of the people who gets killed on this afternoon is Peter Pepler. He's a troop commander in A Squadron. He's only joined the regiment in May, so just before, he's one of the replacements. He's just arrived. And I was trying to work out where all these people, where these people were killed, like Peter Pepler. What was the spot? And Padre Skinner, who was the 8th Armoured Brigade senior chaplain, but attached specifically to the Sherwood Rangers, kept a casualty list and a casualty book.
He made it his job to bury all the dead personally, didn't he?
Yes, he didn't want the tank crews to have to bury their own men.
Yeah.
So he took it upon himself. And then what he did was he notes down where he buried them. So you'd bury them on the spot.
Yep.
In a shallow grave. You take all the dog tags and all the kind of personal possessions off the body. You'd bury them in a shallow grave, do your little kind of service, and then you'd mark it up, so for the kind of Army Graves registration people to come along, and they'd then disinter them and put them in a proper, in a proper cemetery at a later stage. So I've got a copy of his sketch map for this, and the problem is these sketch maps were done absolutely on the hoof, very often last thing at night or first thing in the morning, when you're absolutely exhausted, and it doesn't quite marry up.
No.
That's the problem, because it says Lane to D'Audrieu.
I think we'll allow him that though, right?
Yeah. So but it took a long time for me to kind of work out, orientate it, using that 1944 aerial photograph, Google Earth and this to marry it up. But the key thing here is the north.
Isn't right.
No, that is correct. So
Right.
if you assume that bit is right, then everything else starts falling into place.
Okay.
So basically what you then work out is the woods are these woods. These are the only woods there are in 1944 and still today.
Right.
So that then means that you can start working out which field is which, and this field is this field.
Yep.
So Peter Pepler is basically there.
Right.
So that's where he is when he was killed.
By this tree line.
Yeah. Literally just here. So if this is here, this is this corner,
Yeah.
and that's how you work it out.
Right.
And that's quite moving, because suddenly you've gone from the kind of the big picture stuff to suddenly where individuals were when they were hit. And he's
Wow, and the Padre in the middle of the night writing his notes up.
Yeah.
Coming back to the Liga and going through his notes and writing his notes up.
Yeah. So this refers to a different.
But that's
the previous page.
Yeah. But there's three graves on here.
Yes. This is a guy from the 24th Lancers that he buries.
Right.
And this is.
That's Keith Douglas.
That's Keith Douglas. So Keith Douglas, they get both John Bothwell Fox and Keith Douglas's crews get back up to the top here.
Yeah.
And they're over in that field there, and some tanks are in the forward position. And there's a couple of Shermans which have already been hit. Monty Hawley's tank has been hit. He was known as Dis Mike because he always had a stammer, and he said my Mike is Dis, and so they then called him Dis Mike. Yeah. He took it all in good stride.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, he did. But anyway, his tank gets hit and they bail out. And then it brews up after they're out.
Yes.
They manage to escape and they're okay. Well, one of them's quite badly wounded, but
Yeah.
they're all right. They all survive.
But Keith Douglas...
so this tank is kind of billowing.
Yeah.
Keith Douglas comes back from this foray where they've been shot, him and John Bethel Fox have been shot at, and is sort of gets out of his tank.
During this stonk?
During this stonk, gets out of his tank, and it's an airburst it does for him. It's a concussive effect.
Yeah.
There's not a scratch on him. And John Bethel Fox and Keith Douglas, you know, they're soulmates. You know, they're absolutely super tight. They're really, really, you know, there's a deep bond there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's right. John Bethel Fox is, I think a couple of the men are wounded, and he looks after them and gets them some soup and patches up their wounds and stuff, and then goes and joins Stanley, who's in a kind of ditch at the edge of the tree line. And he says, John, I've got some terrible news. And he doesn't, John Bethel Fox doesn't say anything. He just waits for him to say what the terrible news is. And he goes, I'm sorry to tell you that Keith has been killed. God. And he can't believe it. He feels the tears welling up and running down his cheek, and he cannot believe it.
Yeah.
He's inconsolable, absolutely just devastated. And he kept this account of coming back from North Africa, training, building up to Normandy, getting here, all this, and the account basically stops when Keith dies.
Yeah.
And that is in amongst Keith Douglas's papers at the British Library. So you can find it, and you can see it, and you can read the word, you can follow the whole word. It's just so moving. God. Because really, the whole piece is not about John Bethel Fox, it's about his friendship with Keith Douglas.
Yeah.
This great poet, and you know, he was unbelievably, he's brave as a lion.
But
Keith
also,
Douglas.
whether he's a great poet or not, it's his best friend, and they've been stuck together by the experience of being soldiers together, by combat, by training, and they're young men with a future and plans and hopes. Yep. And they've been, and you know, it's a thing that gets talked about a lot. That soldiering sticks you together. Yeah. Particularly, you know, when you're fighting. Yeah. And that's how you get through it, is by having a really close friend. But then the danger is the rupture of their death.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the danger to you personally.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
God.
Well, we should. What we're going to do is we'll go back to the cars, and then we'll drive around. We'll go on that parallel track down to that field over there.
The creaking wind farm adds an eerie component to what you're talking about, Jim.
Okay, so these rooftops just down the bottom of this hill here, that's Saint-Pierre. Yep. You've got the Seulles snaking its way this way round here.
You can see through there the houses there that follow the valley.
So that's Tilly-sur-Seulles.
Yeah.
So the ridge behind that's what I call Panzer Lehr Ridge. That's where they are. So 8th Armoured Brigade here and 50th Division coming up. Panzer Lehr over there, 12th SS over that direction. Yep. So you've suddenly got this kind of, they're coming together. And obviously each side wants to hold the high ground, but they also need to get the low ground, because to get to the other person's high ground, you've got to get down to the low ground first. Yeah. So that's where all this is happening. And what's happening is this is where Monty Hawley's tank is hit in this field here, and it just burns for the rest of the day. This is all happening on the 9th of June. So D+3. Yep. Smoke going up into the sky, all the rest of it. And most of A Squadron and the rest of the Sherwood Rangers are behind here.
In this field, using the tree line to conceal themselves.
Exactly, and Stanley Christopherson is in this field here. He's on there. And so when John Bethel Fox comes back up, he pulls back into this field here. Right. But Keith Douglas pulls back into these ones. Okay. So he's along here a little bit, and actually he's a bit further back over that way. So we'll just we'll walk down here, and then we'll find it.
And it's June, so are these fields full of corn like they are now?
Yep.
Full of wheat like they are now?
No, this is grass at the time.
It's grass at the time, right.
Yeah. So yeah, you can completely imagine the Shermans
totally imagine he backs into here.
Yep.
And you know, you're concealed, and this is an era before infrared targeting and all that sort of stuff. So you can park a tank behind a tree line.
Yep.
And as long as you stay in the tank, the stonk isn't going to bother you, right?
No. And Keith was forever getting out of his tank when he shouldn't. You know, it was just this thing, you know, and it was an absolute golden rule: don't get out of your tank in the middle of a stonk. Yeah. Or don't get out of a tank if you don't have to. Yeah. You know, and the mortars are just raining in here, and they're very difficult to predict where they're going to fall. Yep. That's the problem. It's literally here. It's about here.
And 80%,
give or take,
80% of casualties on the Allied side in Normandy.
For mortars.
Shells and mortars.
Yep.
That's the thing that will do you.
Yep. And this is it. This is the spot. If you kind of, you know, if you marry up Padre Skinner's sketch map to this field, it's, you know, give or take 40 yards, it's around here that he's killed and buried. It's amazing, isn't it? So Bethel Fox, who's over there in that field, it's got hedgerows and stuff, he doesn't know this. He just knows that there's a stonk going on. He's been looking after his wounded men.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And you feel connected to these people in this place, don't you, Jim?
I really do.
Having written about them and then done the detective work to find out where he was killed. You do feel I know you do. I mean, you've talked about this, you know, off camera, and you've talked about this before. You do feel a strong personal connection to them, don't you?
I do. I feel a complete connection, and I feel like I really know them, because there's something about those diaries and those letters, particularly when they're kind of well written or kind of lengthily written. People put their characters into that because you're writing something quick. So you haven't got, it's not some sort of formal composition. It's a letter back to your wife or to your parents or a diary for yourself. And so you're expressing your inner thoughts and inner emotions, and their characters just leap off the pages in a way that's so vivid. Yeah. And you know, that whole L.P. Hartley quote about the past being a foreign country, it just isn't, because these guys are people that you and I have met, that we know. They're so recognisable as, you know, young British men. They really, really are. And so you get to know them. And when I first was working out where Peter Pepler had been killed and where Keith Douglas had been killed, it was a early June day 2 years ago. No, so it must have been 2022. And I was just up here on my own, and it was magic. It was so moving because there was just this incredible bird song, the swish of the.
Well, I remember you telling me afterwards. You'd said you won't believe what I did this week. I found where, and you were brimful of the emotion, not just of the satisfaction of the discovery, but that you could place him, that you knew, this person,
where they'd been.
You knew where they'd been.
And when I'm up here, I kind of, it sounds really pretentious, and I don't mean it to at all, but I can just feel them. I can imagine it, and I can picture it much more vividly than I can actually being on Gold Beach or Sword, which has been so transformed into a kind of sort of modern holiday beach and D-Dayified and tarted up, and
well, the only thing,
there's nothing here.
Right this moment, that the only thing that's different are the wind turbines, right?
Basically, yeah.
And the fact that rather than grass, they're growing wheat in this field, barley or something.
But the landscape is the same, and you can see from marrying up the 1944 aerial photograph, that you can see the headlines are the same, haven't really changed.
Well, you can see,
and obviously that wood is there, isn't it? You can tell that those are older than.
But you can also see that you'd pop through the gap in the hedgerow, you'd come in here, you'd hunker down, and that the ditch in the hedge line means that you keep your wounded in there, tend to them in there. Yeah. It's all very.
But I'm also really glad that you've seen this.
Yeah.
Because I have talked about it so much. So to finally bring you here is it's been great. It's emotional.
No doubt about it.
Yep. And and it's good to follow a particular unit, because you suddenly realise that this isn't about sweeping statistics and brigades and numbers and it's actually about individuals.
People.
It's about people.
Yeah.
People that you and I would recognise. So here's Keith Douglas, and there's Peter Pepler.
Poet artist.
Yep.
Philippians 4:8. These things he loved, he died in their defence.
Yeah.
And he's only 24.
Yeah. Same as Peter Pepler. It's nothing, is it? So many young people here. It's ridiculous. 22. 29, 24.
Well, and who will remain? He'll only, it is that thing. They shall not grow old.
No.
Because they didn't get the opportunity.